Dun dun dun. Black Moon Lilith. Hello, Marnie. It's me, Black Moon Lilith. How you doing?
Oh,
Do
kind
you think I'm sexy?
of. I do think you're sexy.
You know what? I think you're sexy too. I'm so glad you're doing a show on me. Fabulous. It's about time someone paid attention to me.
Well, you're in Leo, so we need to pay attention to you.
I know, and I'm so fucking misunderstood, motherfuckers.
You
Fix
are.
it.
You're
Okay, wait a
more than
minute.
just a
Black Moon.
sexy slut.
I'm gonna put Black Moon. Yes. I'm gonna put you over here. Okay, you go over here. Oh no, don't put me, don't cast me out. Oh, what she has a fear of abandonment and rejection. Okay, I'm gonna put her up here.
Okay, she's still revered. We're not casting you out. We're not. You're
Okay.
still in charge.
No, you're gonna be watching over us. Good. Okay, are we
Okay.
on?
We're
Okay.
on. We have Black Moon Lilith here. We have Lady Karma. We have me, Marnie.
All the moon goddesses, oh bitches.
Supposed to be Cosmic Playhouse Astrology. We've been on hiatus for a year. We've been going through it, y'all.
Okay, about a year ago, actually on July 23rd was our very first Playhouse video. So this is a kind of our birthday, sort of.
It
Okay.
is a little bit after our birthday.
Yes. So happy birthday, Marnie, my co-host.
Happy birthday.
Hostess. Yes. So we're here. We're gonna do because Black Moon Lilith is here. We very much need to talk about her because she's very relevant right now. Because she is in Leo and she is closely conjuncting Venus retrograde, who's also in Leo. So, and I don't think Black Moon Lilith is getting enough attention, which of course I can hear. She's like, oh no, no one ever pays attention to me. Well, we're going to do that today because everyone's talking about Venus retrograde, but no one's really including her, which is, of course, par for the course because that's how she's
not right. I know.
No, it's not.
Fear of abandonment worse, and then there's going to be more retribution.
Right, and fear. I think her fear of rejection. Okay, and look, I'm wearing my Black Moon Lilith.
Oh,
great. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about Venus retrograde, but we really want to. We've been wanting to do an episode on Black Moon Lilith for quite a while because I find that her to be just a beautiful, symbolic, archetypical astrological goddess, and there's not a lot of content online and anywhere really about Black Moon Lilith because it's fairly new in astrology because Black Moon Lilith is a point. It's a mathematical point in space. Okay, it's not. It's like the nose, but it is a moon. It is a moon degree. Like it's a perigee. I don't want to get all nerdy and get lots of reach
I
here.
know. Because there's like the dark moon, the black moon. There's the dust. There's the literal asteroid, which is the only thing that's actual literal. But we're really more talking about the moon's
literal. It's a literal Lilith. Yes, we need to work on our literal definitions around these times. Just saying. No, I think
asteroid. There is an asteroid called Lilith.
Yeah, it's a literal asteroid.
Talk about where someone's Black Moon Lilith is. That's not what you're talking about.
Of course not
about Black Moon and not the asteroid.
Specifically, nowadays, if you want to do your chart and find out where Black Moon Lilith is, you can do it on astro.com. I think they do it, and Astrodienst, because a lot of the older ephemericists don't even have her, of course, because of the patriarch, right?
Yeah.
Kicked out of the garden.
And I can probably link in the show notes, but I know there's a good, on astrologyanswers.com, there's a cool little article about the different descriptions of Lilith and what exactly that means. But I can link that. But yeah, and I think it also has a link to where you can actually get the names that you have to put in to get it on astro.com. It's like H23 or I can't remember what it is.
Right.
Anyway, there's a way to do it.
Right. So yeah, so find out, everybody should kind of find out where the Black Moon Lilith is, because honestly, I didn't really know about mine till like a year ago, and I've been doing this shit for like 40,000 years. Right. I am immortal, but
I think Cafe Astrology has one too, where you can just put in your birth date and it'll tell you. And I think that gives you the mean Black Lilith, which is sometimes a little few degrees different from your oscillating.
Yeah,
Lilith.
it's a little mathematical and
Yeah,
nerdy,
it gets a little nerdy, but
but I think symbolically, I mean, some people are like, oh, well, that doesn't sound like, they don't seem like it's a valid astrological uh, useful astrologically because it's not a planet or it's not, but it's a perigee, and that's what the nodes are too. Now, the moon's nodes, and of course, and it's a node. Node is a point in space, but the Black Moon Lilith is when, because the moon orbits, right? And it's kind of like an egg. It's on the elliptical and it orbits. And when it's the very, 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 very farthest, when it gets the very, very farthest away from planet Earth, that's what Black Moon Lilith is. It's that place in space, right? So I think it's a very elegant, beautiful symbol that can be used. I don't see why not, because it's also a moon goddess.
yeah,
All of the moon, because it's like when the nodes, and the moon is the goddess. So that's why, and I love her so much, and I love her not only because of how cool that is, that it's this, it's the dark side. It's literally the dark side of the moon, right?
right, right,
It's also, it's got this very, very long history. The myth itself of Lilith, Lilith being Adam's first wife, but she goes back even farther than that. She's been around for a really
right.
long time.
Well, and it's
Lilith is an
interesting
ancient
too that like
goddess.
with the people just like not really knowing anything, like how much they keep trying to erase her. And I think that, they've been trying to erase Lilith for so long, it's like she's stripped out of the biblical references and stuff like that. But I think she's making a comeback. I think that's what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, because I've done some research on it, and I found this guy. Maybe I can put it somewhere so people can, if you want to watch it. It's on Esoterica, and he is a Jewish rabbi, one of those fabulously intellectual Kabbalists, and he's amazing, and he broke down the history of Lilith, and I've corroborated it with other research that I have. So yeah, so basically, Lilith is not in the Bible. And it's weird because the reason the reason she was created, I mean, she was basically a fusion. You know how they all did that all the time. They were always borrowing each other's gods and
Right,
goddesses
right.
and stuff. So Lilith was around a lot for a long time. She's known as a demon, and it was like in Mesopotamia, but she was, she was, it had something to do with children, and it was all, uh, a lot of stories about that. But what happened is, with with the Bible, in the first chapter of Genesis, it talks about God created, man and a woman from clay, right? That's the first chapter. The very next one, or what do they call them? The chapters. The next chapter, I think, they it says, and God created, Eve from Adam's rib. But how do you explain? You just said that God, in the very first chapter,
Right.
that God created on the first day or seventh day or whatever, they created Adam, a man and a woman, right? Are you following me? I know I'm
Yeah,
going left
yeah,
and right.
no, yeah.
Okay, and so yes, next chapter, if you read it, and I've gone back and like, oh yeah, there is a little weird, like all of a
Some
sudden,
time since I read the
wait a
Bible.
minute, you said that God created man and woman, and then later on, the next chapter, you said, and then God
Right.
created a woman from Adam's rib. So what happened was, in like the 7th century, his name is Ben Sirah, a Jewish mystic and rabbi, wrote a whole text. And basically, they were called the midrashes, and the midrashes were these Jewish, religious texts that kind of filled in all the loopholes in the Bible. Like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, how do we, how does that
Yeah.
make sense?
So you just threw
They
out first wife and got a new model. What happened?
what? Because it doesn't, so that he kind of borrows Lilith from, Mesopotamian and Babylonian texts, you know, and he says that Lilith was, Adam's first wife, that God created, the both of them equally out of clay, the man and the woman, like it says in the Bible. And then now in the Midrashes, he adds in other words, he sort of fills in the blanks, right? And this is very, this is in the Hebrew and Jewish, canon, right? In the text, the holy books. So Lilith becomes Adam's wife. God creates him out of clay, and then, well, uh, uh, Lilith refuses to lay under, and this is explicitly what it says, that she refused to lay down under Adam during intercourse. She refuses. She says, "No, I'm not laying under you. I want to be on top." And yeah, and isn't that crazy? So she wanted to top Adam, and Adam got pissed off. He's like, "No, you got to lay down." And then so she gets really angry because she won't submit to Adam, and she yells out, she screams out God's name. And in the text, I believe it says, because it's translated everything, that she just disappears. And then later on, people say, well, God cast her out, right? We don't know, if God cast her out, she disappeared because she yelled out God's name, the ineffable name of God, which you are not allowed to do, apparently, right, or you get thrown out of the Garden of Eden. So she gets tossed out, but Adam gets really upset and he starts crying.
He's like, I need a girlfriend.
Yeah, why did you send her away? So then God sends, he goes, okay, well, I'm going to send 3 angels. So he sends 3 angels looking for Lilith, who is out out in the reeds or something. And he sends these 3 angels. Their names, I will just mess them up.
She's out there being a top is what she's doing.
Well, yeah, she's she's hanging out. But they go to her, okay, these 3 angels, and they're like, hey, you know what? You can come back. You can still be free. You still have to lay down under Adam. But we won't, if you do this for us, we will not, kill 100 of your children a day. So I guess she has a lot of children, right? So
wow, she's getting busy.
So she just turns it on him, and she's kind of like, well, okay, if you can, take my 100 children a day, if you allow me, if I can be allowed to stalk and kill human children, and during a time period of 8 days for a male, after the 8 days of the boy child's life, or 20 days of the girl's child's life. So that's why she's been kind of attributed to crib death from that what they did at the time was people would put the name of the 3 angels over their babies in their cribs to keep Lilith from coming to take her babies. But the thing is Lilith was kind of bamboozled by all of this, right? You know what I mean? It's like, so then she, of course, is now, in all the literature, she becomes this demon, this child-eating demon who's cast out, and she's just wicked. And in some of the stories, she actually comes back as a snake in the garden. That's her. Right. That's Lilith who's the snake, which is kind of interesting because she says to Eve, hey, I'm going to give you some knowledge. You don't have to lay down.
You can
she was
top, girl.
Yeah, she was giving her some of her, feminist sister talk.
Tips.
You lay down for him. But yeah, so that's a very kind of muddled, and I apologize for that. I could have read it from the book, but that's boring.
Well, that might be copyright infringement. I don't know.
No, it wasn't really from the book. It was from, and we can include that if you really want to see a more coherent version of that. We can.
I like the incoherent version myself.
Yeah, but anyway, Lilith has been, Adam's wife was cast out because, and then became a demon, and she's this horrible, nasty demon, and so that's why I think it's a very beautiful archetype, especially since now that she's being more commonly used during an age of women sort of apparently seizing on to that sort of archetype of not being the man's not being the bottom, you know,
Right.
of not needing a man. And, it's all of that. So that's why, you have the Lilith fair, all the symbols of it for feminism.
It's funny. I was looking up. That was one of the things I was looking up today was the Lilith Fair, and it's the Lilith Fair's
Oh,
birthday. And I didn't know there was one. Like they had one Lilith Fair in September of '96 before their big summer of '97 when they really took off. But their birth date, Venus and Black Moon Lilith were conjunct at
what?
seven. They were conjunct at 7 degrees Leo on the first Lilith fair.
Oh, that's lovely. Now, Venus wasn't retrograde, though, was she?
No, she was not retrograde. But interestingly, so they had that one in '96, and then they had like 3 summers where they were really successful. '97, '98, '99, they were really successful. And then they tried to do they tried to like kind of do a resurgence of Lilith Fair in 2010, and it was this huge disaster, and
Really?
a bunch of acts dropped out, and they were like Sarah McLachlan was like protesting some horrible immigration law in Arizona, and tour dates got canceled, and all these artists dropped out, like Kelly Clarkson and Queen Latifah were like a bunch of people that were like, we're afraid we're not going to get paid, so we're going to drop out. And
Ah,
when the tour went, that 2010 tour, they did do some of the dates, but when it was canceled, Saturn I think it was Saturn was like conjunct the birth charts, Mercury in retrograde, which I thought was kind of interesting. So their birth chart had Mercury in retrograde, and when Saturn conjuncted it, it was just like this disaster. But I thought it was kind of cool that the Venus and Black Moon Lilith were exactly conjunct.
oh, it's beautiful. I wonder if
Me
that
and
wasn't
Leo
some,
too.
they
So
didn't have some astrologer do that because I
I
mean,
know,
they should have. I mean,
but I don't know. I mean, I wasn't thinking about Black Moon Lilith in 1996.
yeah, nobody was. She was still, down there in the reeds eating babies.
Yeah, still eating babies, and look at the
Well,
big
it's some
top.
there's some contradictions too about Lilith, about that in some legends she was angry because she couldn't have children. So, but I think what's important is to as far as symbolically and using her, as an archetypal symbol with astrology is that she's very clearly has something to do with children. Like, when and I was thinking about you because you have Venus, and right now, Venus, I mean, Black Moon and Lilith is in Leo, right? And I was watching this one video, and the woman was talking about how women who have Black Moon and Lilith and Leo often have like really their issues of abandonment and rejection from being a child, because remember, Leo rules children and your childhood. And also I was thinking, oh, Marnie just very much doesn't want to have children. Like, you're very certain on that. And it's like, oh, that would be a very Black Moon and Lilith interpretation in Leo, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like my fears too. It were less. Sometimes I think they were even less about motherhood than they were about pregnancy and childbirth. Like I just felt like it would be like I have an irrational fear of pregnancy and childbirth, like to the point where it's like it's literally phobic. I'm actually phobic. When I see a pregnant woman, I get a little panicky. It's like it just looks like death to me. It's like I don't that feels like death. I don't know why you would put your body through that. Like it's terrifying to me. And it does feel like a little crazy, because it's like women do it all the time. But I'm like, no, this is the most dangerous thing you can do to yourself. Like it's hugely dangerous. I'm sure a lot of my past lives I died in childbirth. I'm sure.
But I wonder if that wouldn't also be a useful application for Black Moon and Lilith in Leo.
Yeah.
That, because Black Moon is in Lilith, the Black Moon and Lilith is where your fears are. Your fears of, rejection, or your fears of abandonment, or your fears of being shunned, or where you're shunned or shamed, right? So
Yeah.
that if you have Black Moon in Lilith in Leo, because Leo is children. And I wonder that if, I mean, I would have to test that out. I hadn't really thought of it till today or yesterday, but I have to test that out on people. Like,
Yeah.
if that, or they have something to do with children, like as far as, some deep pathological need for children, or perhaps a need or a fear of losing their children,
Well,
or
I
having children.
felt like I hated being a child. I hated it.
Right.
I thought it was a trap. I felt very stuck. I felt like, why does everyone else get to be in charge of me? I'm a huge disappointment anyway. I was a major disappointment. That's how I felt. So it's just like, to me, like, maybe it's just like also not wanting to have a child. It's like, why would I want to traumatize this little being? Because being a child is traumatic. Why would I want to do that to somebody? Why would I want to bring a soul into this world and traumatize it with my shitty motherness?
Right. And it is about childhood trauma too, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And I think too, because and maybe that's why I really thought I got to talk to Marnie about this. But, well, I'll wait till tomorrow. We do our little show. But you also, as a child, I mean, you wrote a whole play about it, basically about your
Right.
childhood, how you felt very rejected by your religion. You were very religious upbringing.
Right.
And I was like, God, that's very Black Moon and Lilith. You felt sort of cast out by the church and
Right.
by the
Well, and
religious.
I'm also like, I'm writing this so much of the book that I'm pretty much done with now, but it's so much of it is about that, like how that, that religious stuff was such a letdown to me. It was so traumatizing.
Right. And that's very Black Moon and Lilith, because she was cast out by God because she said God's name out loud.
Yeah.
And I think you too questioned your religious upbringing. You questioned it and you got shut
Yeah.
down and you
I
got
crucified a
rejected.
Barbie and now look at me.
I know. But I mean, as far as like in your family experience, because I remember that scene in the play that you wrote, where you asked the question of, well, if God was there, how did God get there? What was the question? It was
Oh,
beautifully.
yeah. It was like in the beginning, there was nothing, and God created the heavens and the earth. Okay, well, then where did God come from? Well, he was already there. But I thought you said there was nothing. So it's like, you guys are just
Yeah, and right there,
like,
that's when they told you got punished, remember, in the play. So that's a very Black Moon and Lilith and Leo thing, I think,
yeah.
right? That's
You
kind of,
can't ask too many questions because you get punished. At least that was my experience of Christianity. You did
but
not.
you almost, yeah, and you almost said God's name out loud, right? Because you questioned it.
Yeah, I was like, I don't
Questioned,
understand what's going on.
right?
Confused.
Right.
Oh,
So yeah, so and also there's a whole there I wrote down a bunch of people who want to know about their Black Moon and Lilith. Like I said, there's not a lot of content on this. And I think we're still kind of working through it, like
yeah.
the only, you do as astrology, you have to take years and years and years and years of experience, and that's how we know about sun signs and Leos, because for years of empirical experience of dealing, we understand it. So that's why Black Moon and Lilith, since it's relatively new, we don't have a lot of content on it. But there's
Right.
there's a I did write down some stuff, and I thought was really kind of interesting about where your Black Moon Lilith is. And I'm not going to keep flipping through this, but you want to take it from here? I'm going to look this up.
Yeah, well, I did want to say, like, I feel like we should do at least one little shout out to Sinead, because and of course I want to get to a lot of other stuff too, but I wanted to just talk about Sinead O'Connor because
Oh, right.
her chart was so intense, and not surprising. I mean, her chart was really, really intense. But actually, I found one that has her birth time on it,
Oh, really?
which gives her Sag rising, which totally fits. She's
Yeah, her and her big
very,
mouth.
she has a big mouth, and just like just her whole appearance and her whole, yeah, the way she would just open up her mouth and sing and talk back, and she had a big mouth. Like, she did have a big wide smile physically, but then also, of course, was very outspoken, which is very Sag rising, as having Sag rising, but also had Black Moon Lilith, conjunct Chiron and Saturn, all like in really close degree in Pisces, which is so like, what a wounded warrior she was. It's just
Yeah. No,
such
she
the
was
walk
very,
wounded from the moment she was born.
she's an excellent symbol of Black Moon Lilith. And it's very, it's it's so syncrotic, how that word is said, that she actually died while Black Moon Lilith was conjunct Venus retrograde in Leo.
Yeah.
I
And
think that.
all of that was like, um, all of that Pisces was also exactly um, opposed by Uranus and Pluto conjunct in Virgo. So she just had, and then she had Venus in Sagittarius, so Venus in her first house, but her Venus was also in that. So she had a really hardcore T square in her chart that was just, it was really, really intense. There was so much internal friction, and then so much she was willing to push back though, and she always paid for it. And she just had such a dynamic. I mean, it was just like when she passed and I looked up her chart, I was like, part of me was like, oh my God, how did she last as long as she did? Like, it's so intense, but not really
Well,
surprising.
she had a thing about children too, and she obviously had survived childhood trauma, which is very Black Moon Lilith, right?
Yeah.
She had a lot of childhood trauma, but she was also, when she tore up that picture of the Pope on TV, it was on Saturday Night Live. I remember watching it. I
Yeah.
was a really little girl then. When she tore up that picture, it was so crazy because it was so shocking. And the thing
Right.
is her the statement she was making was because of all the revelations that were coming out about the Catholic priests and the abuse of children and pedophilia.
Yeah.
That's what it
And
was about.
she's
She was
right.
doing it. She was speaking up for children, and it's so funny because that's so Black Moon Lilith. So
Right.
the childhood abuse and the trauma, and it involved children. So she, yeah, and I think by the time we get through this, the next, I mean, we're not even halfway through yet through the
Yeah.
Venus
I know.
retrograde. uh, I mean, the images of the celebrities and the people, the stories that are coming, that are making the news cycle. There's so many Liliths, and well, Lori, what is her name? Lori
Oh,
Val.
Lori Vallow's the doomsday mom. Like she's,
Yeah,
oh,
I know how
um,
much Lilith, she kills her
I mean, yeah,
children.
she's kind of the
Yeah,
literal baby killer demon woman,
right. And she was all caught up in religion too. And she
Yeah.
was that her was that her husband Chad who wrote that book, Chad Daybell, who wrote that book.
Yeah, yeah.
I
I think
thought
it was. I always get her husbands mixed up. She had more than one, but
she didn't one of them die, or I don't know.
died mysteriously. I don't know. Like, I
Yeah.
was kind of thought maybe she's a husband killer too. I
I
can't.
kind of want to do like maybe at the end of Venus retrograde, after all of this is we passed, we can make like a board, and we'll put seriously because there's so many archetypes just flying at us all over the place. It's so crazy. It's like what's happening too with celebrity like Cardi B. The other
Yeah,
when she was in Vegas, and I don't really know the whole story on that. It keeps kind of changing, but
yeah,
it happened right at a Venus Black Moon Lilith conjunction right around Joe. It's a couple days ago, right? Uh, where she throws the mic at the woman in the audience who supposedly threw a drink at her. But then
right.
later I saw a story. Now the woman is pressing charges or called the cops on her.
Yeah, I kind of wonder. I mean, I just feel like with stuff like that, if you weren't there, it's kind of hard to get the whole story. But I'm like, I don't know. Maybe just don't throw shit at people, but
But then in
leave,
another
leave
story, they said,
performance alone.
well, in another story, they said that it was, so that's what I mean. There's been a lot of muddled, I don't know all
Right.
the
Yeah, I
stories,
don't
there's so
know it
many of them,
either.
that it was, she threw the mic at her DJ. And I was like, wow, this story keeps changing.
Yeah,
But that's not really even the point. The point is that Cardi B is an excellent, example of Black Moon Lilith and Leo, like, that archetype.
right. Yeah, it's like
Is a,
I'm on
yeah.
stage, I'm performing. Don't throw shit at me, or I'm gonna
And
clap.
not only that, she's Cardi B. She's a female rapper. Like,
Yeah,
she's badass. And we're seeing a lot of those badass women too appearing, and really like dark ones who kill their children. I mean,
yeah.
it's a very dark thing, but that is part of the symbol, and we have to look at that.
There's a
Um,
lot of. I just was reading about it today, and of course, I was watching something, and I started crying because it was really sad about that young man that was stabbed in Brooklyn because he was standing at a gas station and he was with some friends. He was like a dancer and a choreographer, and he was with some friends, and they were like voguing to some Beyonce song. And these little punk ass white homophobes got up in their face and stabbed this guy, just stabbed him, and he died. And
When
I
did
was
this
just like,
happen? I'm sorry, I missed the story.
it was on Saturday night, and I was just like, because I think I saw like a Beyonce put some kind of post up because she was just like, oh God, like because it was all, of course, all over the news that like, oh, he was dancing to a Beyonce song. So what is she? She's like,
Oh, right.
I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I was just like, when I was seeing like interviews with this guy's friends, I just was like, I just couldn't. I was like, I can't. I just feel like one of those things like this with the people stirring up this like homophobic bullshit and these, their hatred of the LGBTQ community. It's just like this is just it's just I can't.
Do you remember, because we discussed about Marriage Equality Act, the Obergefell decision, the Supreme Court, which okayed marriage, and that marriage equality,
Yeah.
which of course that's when, gay people got married, and it happened during the last retrograde period of Venus. Remember, in
The
2015,
last
that was
yeah, the
Venus,
last
Venus Leo.
Leo. Yeah.
Now, there also, we can go back to the 8 years before that, and there's definitely a link to gay rights, marriage equality, and to Venus retrograde in Leo.
Yeah.
So, and this time during 2015, Venus was in retrograde in Leo, but she was it was conjunct Jupiter. And so all this, everyone, there's so many marriages that happened, but
Right.
it's funny because all those people got married during Venus retrograde, which to say you shouldn't do. That's one
Right.
of the things they say you shouldn't do. So now here we are. Venus is back in Leo retrograde again, and now all of this, but it's squaring Jupiter and squaring Uranus, right? So it's like now it's kind of like it's that thing where, when change happens, then the backlash comes and then the
Right.
resistance comes. So now we're in the cycle of before it was conjunct Jupiter. So it's all like, oh, hey, happy times.
Right.
Now, now it's becoming very dangerous for openly gay people, and it's Venus. Venus is about love and beauty and equality.
Yeah.
Her moral, she's not that she did her morality, she's not a moral goddess. She's not, she is a goddess of practical matters and love and beauty and kindness and peace and all of those things.
Right.
And so I think that marriage equality and is that's why it falls under Venus's, it seems to fall under Venus's domain.
Yeah.
And also what's happening in Uganda, this was on Rachel Maddow brought this up on Monday, and I've been following this a little bit, but that in Uganda, how they passed that law,
Oh, yeah.
horrible laws against homosexuality, that by death, I mean, I think punishment by death is
Yeah.
terrible.
It's
And the
bad.
last time this happened, the Biden administration and the United States was like, oh no, you can't do this. This isn't
Right.
cool. They weren't supporting it. So Uganda kind of backed off a little bit because there was this like international pressure. They're
Right.
doing it now and no one's saying anything. And it's very terrifying. And I was thinking when I was watching it, I was like, of course, because you have to be vigilant, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, with change, because no one's looking at it right now. But it's like it's and Uganda's doing it, and then so all these a lot of other, in Africa, a lot of other countries are starting to do it because they're kind of getting away with it. And it's
Yeah.
brutal and it's hateful and it's terrifying. And so I think that coming up during a Venus retrograde in Leo is interesting, and we need to pay attention. We can't,
Yeah. Like
hopefully,
we just have to keep because I think too the Leo, like Venus being in Leo, Leo is very much like I just keep thinking about like out and proud. And it's like that's what's pissing these people up. Don't be out. Don't be out. Don't be proud. You gotta keep that shit under wraps. Go back in the closet. And it's like you can't be pushing people back in the closet, guys. It's too late.
well,
It's so stupid.
like they always come after, those are the first they come after, during these
Right.
fascist, societies that go after the marginalized communities, the trans, and it's like, and they vilify them, and they make them a scapegoat. This is classic scapegoating,
Oh
and
yeah.
yeah, and it's terrifying, and that's so I find that a lot of this stuff, I think by the time this is over, hopefully, um, at least awareness is really important, that people are aware of this, and I think it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, because
Yeah.
right now we're at Uranus is squaring right today. Uranus is squaring Black Moon Lilith. And I think it's very interesting about what happened with the indictment today, because we were
I
going to
know,
go on
I know.
earlier, but
We got to get to Tanya Chutkin, because
right.
all the things I was looking up, I'm looking at all this stuff. I'm looking at Lilith Fair, and I'm looking at Sinead O'Connor, and I'm watching Beyonce's feed, and then I'm like, oh my God, there's an indictment.
Right. So we were going to do this
Judge,
earlier, but I had known. I'm like, it's a fucking, excuse my language, Lilith. So her influence on me.
don't
I
we
wasn't
always use
talking.
bad language? We're gonna get kicked off.
I know what was I talking about before I started using bad language. I don't know. I got distracted by my own dirty mouth, my own potty mouth. Okay, so yes.
The judge, U.S. District Court Judge
Oh,
Tanya Chutkin, who has, by the way, she's handed down some pretty big sentences to some other January 6thers, so she ain't here to play.
okay. So yeah, so we kind of wanted to start there, but we ended up going back
Yeah,
to the
we ended
beginning
up
because Tanya Chutney was nowhere.
Chutkin.
Chutkin, sorry.
I think chutney is a mint dressing, isn't it? That goes on Indian food.
I don't know. It's mayonnaise. I don't know what it is. Sorry. So anyway, yeah. When today's a full moon, and so I was like, I don't know, because I was thinking, I think this indictment is going to happen on the full moon, because that's the way this has been going.
Right.
That first indictment he got, the Alex Bragg one, that happened on the Leo Aries full moon. So like it's going to happen on the full moon, but I didn't say anything, and I was like, damn, I wish I should have, but it doesn't really matter. But yes, so the so she was. If we would have done this earlier today, of course, what is our lovely judge's name so I don't butcher it again?
It's well, hopefully I'm saying it right. It's spelled Chutkan, so I thought it was Chutkin.
Chutkin.
That sounds right to me, but
Okay,
if I'm
Tracy
mispronouncing it, I'm
Chutkin.
very sorry. Your Honor,
Tracy
I
Chutkin.
apologize. Tanya
Gosh,
Chutkin, yeah.
Tanya. Well, anyway, so yeah, and
We can just
when
Your Honor.
Your Honor, yes. So anyway, she was born in July of 1962. So I immediately opened up my ephemeris, when Marnie, Marnie, you told me, and I was like, oh my God. And so it is intense. And I wanted to just go over this because it's so on the nose. This woman was destined for this moment. So check this out. Right now, because we've been going on and on about Venus in retrograde in Leo and Black Moon in Leo, and there's a lot of Leo energy. The Sun is in Leo right now. So Tanya Chutkin has she's a Cancer, right? She has
Right.
Venus in Leo, and guess what? She's got Venus at 21 degrees Leo. Where is Black Moon Lilith right now? At 22 degrees. Where is Venus right now? She's retrograding back to 21 degrees. Okay, so she has Venus, transiting Venus conjunct her natal Venus, and her Uranus. And I know this because I have Uranus in Leo too. At 10, I'm sorry, she has Uranus at 28 degrees Leo. Okay, so that means that she, at this moment now, Venus is conjuncting her Uranus in Leo. Exactly. Okay. So Uranus is, and first of all, next, she's going through her second Uranus square, which we all go through at around 60, right?
Right.
And we go through it when we're in our 20s, the beginning of, our independence and freedom. And we go through it again in the 60s when we're, retire or whatever. So, but she's got this, so all of this Venus and Black Moon Lilith is sitting on top of her Uranus and Venus. Now get this, it squares her Mars and Taurus. She has Mars and Taurus exactly squaring her Uranus and Leo at 27 degrees. So her Mars and Uranus square is getting conjuncted and squared by Black Moon Lilith, by Uranus and Taurus. So Uranus is conjuncting
That's
her
weird.
Mars.
Yeah.
Now, okay, and that's not enough, right?
But wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. Her north node is at 10 degrees Leo. And guess where the sun is going to be on Thursday? It's going to be, and that's when, Trump goes before her, is going to be at 10 degrees Leo. So the sun in Leo will be conjuncting her north node in Leo. Exactly. Right. And the north node is, that is our, that's our future. That's our destiny.
Right.
So the sun conjuncting that. So, like I said, she is completely in her. This is kind of her element. She is just. I mean, she's a badass. She's got Mars in Taurus, squaring Uranus and Leo. Exactly. So she's got some. This all comes from this internal. I mean, she's probably been through all kinds of hell with men. Being Mars. With the patriarch. With Mars scoring her Uranus, right? But she's born, even though she's a Cancer, but she's got this very Leo Taurus Uranus energy. And so
and then the Neptune, Neptune and Scorpio. She's also got Saturn at 9 degrees Aquarius. So
right, she just went through a Saturn turn.
Aquarius is also, with up against the North Node and the Neptune and the full moon.
Right, and the sun, yes, right, and this full moon at 9 degrees Leo Aquarius is right on her north node exactly. And I mean, it's so crazy how fate just plucks her out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know we were going to do this about it. And I was like, wow, thank you for giving us this cool astrological little lesson here. But I think this is really, and we haven't really had time to really dig down on it. That's just, we don't even have her time of birth, so we don't really have her chart. But just with that stuff. So,
I mean, and also, when I looked up her chart, of course, we don't know her time of birth, but just looking at the date, there's a pretty fair chance that she has moon in Leo.
Oh, absolutely. It's either in Virgo or Leo, right? It's probably Leo. Oh God, I bet Leo's in that mix too.
I bet you it is.
And I bet Black Moon Lilith and Venus are conjuncting. And well, Black Moon Lilith and Venus are all over her right now, and she's being called out. And that's why I was saying this time it's remarkable being able to watch it unfold, and how these, we just watch the news cycle, watch who's in the news. And it's very, God, it's so, to me, it's very beautiful. I don't, but I'm nerd out on this stuff. I think it's just so amazing. The synchronicity and the elegance of that. I don't know, of it is so pretty. But so now check this out, because she's got all that at like a late degree, 28 degrees, 27 degrees Leo Mars. Donald Trump, and we talked about this in our last video that we did with Sixth Sense. Donald Trump's ascendant is 29 degrees Leo, right? Conjunct Regulus. Black Moon Lilith is fixing to sit right on it, and so is Venus retrograde, right? And I mean, we've been looking at this for a while, like what's going to happen to Trump during that Venus retrograde, because we know that, I mean, we, speaking with the astrological community, in my head, that
for me, and the voices in my head have been saying for a while.
I know. They're like, you just wait till Venus goes retrograde, and Black Moon Lilith and Venus, these wonderful, archetypical women are, right on top of his, his ascendant. And now, so all of her stuff is, all of her Uranus, all of the stuff is sitting right on top of his ascendant, and he has to stand up in front of her. This is what I really wish I want to see it, because he's going to stand up. Can we please live stream this? So believe me, she's going to be top. She's not bottoming. No,
of a bottom at all.
She's no bottom. She's definitely got Lilith and Venus, and her strength and her sheer power is, he's such a tiny little man. It's this tiny little disgusting little man that he is.
Just a gross little clump of dirty clay that just needs to go crawl back under the moss. And
so I think this is so crazy. That's why I was thinking, I don't know if I guess she's gonna be the judge for this whole thing. But I would say, if I was gonna make a bold prediction, I'm like, this is her fate. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so marked in her
And it's
chart.
trippy too, because it's like judges are chosen at random. It's like this is just random, you know.
Right, right, yeah. And so
So
she just randomly has to have, Uranus at 27 degrees Leo
right,
right on top of. So if you think about someone who has, when someone has like Uranus on your ascendant, um, what they come in and they completely change your life. I mean, this is a very
right,
radical, and you see that in synastry. And synastry is when you compare someone's chart to another and how you react
right.
together. So all of her, she's going to come at him, and I dare say, I think he's going to be terrified of her. And I wonder just how much he's going to be calling her out and threatening her. I don't know. I mean, he might, but I have a feeling he will tremble before her.
Yeah, I mean, damn, I wish I could watch it, but
But remember, he has been going after Jack Smith and Fonnie Willis, and he doesn't. He's
he's
the
not in the
only
court.
person on the
Is he
earth
in the
that's allowed
court?
to fucking do that.
Yeah, like I mean,
Threaten them.
he's still gonna have to stand in the court in front of her. Like he's not gonna be on Truth Social. He
He
might.
will later. He probably
Yeah,
is
later he
tonight. He's probably gonna be talking about her. But I
will.
wonder because she's a freaking force of nature. Like,
Yeah,
and not only that, but because it sits right on top of his ascendant, like that seems to me that's kind of like really suffocating for him, and really, especially with
right,
that Uranus there, very scary. Like she'd be probably a very frightening figure to him. And I'm curious now to see if he's going to lash out at her quite as much as he has the other ones.
right.
I don't know. Maybe he will, but
Well, yeah, and right on
I,
the ascendant, it's like it just kind of it fucks with your sense of even like how you would even express yourself. Like it just seems like it can.
yeah. And
Um,
Black Moon Lilith is on his, and it's so funny because we were talking about, I was wondering who was going to present as Black Moon Lilith in the Trump story, and I thought it was probably Fonnie Willis, and I do still think that's coming,
yeah, I
and I
think
do think that's the new
there's a
moon.
stack of Black Moon Liliths now. I think.
Right. But
You
I
know.
think that's going to be on the new moon because that's the actual, in August, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. The Lion's Gate, which is August 7th and 8th. But anyway, so I was thinking it was Fonnie Willis, but it's funny that this woman comes up and she very much is, echoing that symbol and that archetype
Right.
of that woman who will not be topped, who will not be, banished. And especially because she's gained her power. I mean, look at them. Look at the power. Look at the power
Yeah.
in the difference. You've got this wealthy billionaire white man born a
Oh,
billionaire, and this woman who probably had to, I'm assuming a lot here, but she had to go through the education system. She had to do a lot to get
she's different, I think, from Jamaica. So I mean,
right.
she
She's
had
an
to work
immigrant.
really hard to get where
Right,
she is.
right. This was not just handed to her like because she's not some rich white man. So this is a very interesting way this is playing out. But I would predict that we're all like, oh well, nothing will ever happen to Trump, and he'll probably get away with it. But I don't know this. I a woman scorned. I don't know. I think that's just symbolically
Not gone easy on the people that she's sentenced who were involved in January 6th. She's not gone easy on them.
no, and she doesn't roll over, and that's the thing. It's like she will not. Oh gosh, she's got Uranus square Mars. It's kind of like she cut her teeth on these kind of men. Do you know what I
Right?
mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, with Mars, if you have Mars in Taurus at 27 degrees and your Uranus is
Yeah.
in Leo at 27 degrees, that shows you that there's with the males, with men in general, or even the
Yeah.
patriarchy, you've
Yeah.
had to fight tooth and nail all
Yeah.
the way. So what happens is that sharpens the claws. She's sharpened her claws on these, and she's not
Yeah.
having it. She ain't afraid of him. She's not
No.
afraid of him.
No, she's not.
And
And she
I
shouldn't be
really
because he's
don't.
pathetic.
And I don't think because everyone, it's so horrifying to watch him get away with being able to call out these prosecutors,
Oh,
and,
it's so
I mean
yeah.
nobody else would, and that's what's so sickening about it. It's like you couldn't, anyone else who was indicted and then went on,
Oh no, he
the
couldn't be putting
interwebs
all
and
that
was
shit out on the
threatening
interwebs. Yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, threatening these judges and getting away with it. And then they're all kind of timid, but it's like, well, you shouldn't do that. It's like, man, I mean, any other person would be in jail right now. Like,
Oh, I
that's
know.
why I
It's
think,
so crazy
well,
what he gets away with, but
I might be projecting a little bit, but it doesn't seem like I don't think she's going to let him get it. I can't see someone with that with that
No,
hardcore.
and just like with her track record and her star charts and everything else, I don't see her being like, okay, whatever. It was
No,
I watched today
she's
I
going to
watched
take it from him.
Heather Cox Richardson did a live stream on, she did like a Facebook Live um at today. And she pushed it a little bit later because she was like, I'm sure you guys want me to talk about the indictment. And she said something really, I'm going to be, paraphrasing a little bit, but it was very funny about like, she was talking about this judge getting chosen. And she was just like, she's like, it's so over the top. If I were writing this in a novel, I just would have to cut it because it's so ridiculous. Because like it's too much plot.
And she's not even an astrologer.
No,
Isn't she a historian?
but she's an historian, and so she's
Same
like,
thing. Same
yeah,
thing.
it's like it's so ludicrous. You couldn't put this in your novel because it's too over the top. Basically, it's like it's so ridiculous. People be like, you can't choose her. That's ridiculous, and it's just like it's so funny because
It's jumping the
she's an
Sharknado.
Obama appointee, and she's already
Right.
sentenced a bunch of January 6thers, and it's just like, okay, here we go.
Right. And it's funny because we have on in the opposite ends, we have Eileen Cannon, who's, as a
Right?
woman
I
and a
also throws
judge.
it at random, but she's like
And
in
she's
pocket.
yeah, she's sort of like the god Athena, the goddess Athena was, a Greek goddess and a woman, or a female or a woman. It's the same thing, right? Was that changed? I don't know. But
I think her pronouns were she, her. I'm pretty sure.
yes. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to boom her out on you. Like, I don't know what the pronoun is.
I don't know, you guys. I don't know.
Oh God. So anyway, so she's Athena was also she was a goddess of the patriarch.
Right.
There are women. That's why when we have these women, like Sarah Huckabee Sanders, to me, I see them as Athenas.
Yeah.
They're goddesses and they're fierce, but they're goddesses for the patriarch first, right? They're
Yeah.
patriarchal goddesses like
Anytime
Medusa
there
and
is one, there's a
yeah,
few of them.
right, right. So yeah, so that's when we talk about gender. It doesn't, we're talking about archetypical collective consciousness and symbols here. So
Right.
the gender. That's why we need to be a little bendy with our gender because in our consciousness we're all one, right?
Yeah.
I think our consciousness is androgynous myself.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Androgynous consciousness.
There,
Definitely.
that should be the name of our band.
That's new band
There's so
name.
many bands.
I mean, that's a hard one to say though.
Well, we just have no talent, but we have a lot of names for our band.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so there's so much more. I have a whole book of crap I've been writing out of my little astrology notebook journal, Lady
I know.
Karma's ridiculous
Well,
journal.
I
We're not going to
mean,
get to it.
no, it's too much. We could do whole, like, we could probably do 8 more episodes on
I know. And also,
Lilith.
we didn't even talk about it being the full moon. Of course, Leo full moon,
I know
and
it's
it's
a full moon
squaring,
today. It's right
it's
up on
squaring
my
Jupiter.
grill.
Well, Jupiter's getting squared. As I said, it's
Yeah.
going to be too much.
Yeah.
So we're not going to have enough content. We're going to have too much content and too much of everything. And it's not even, the day's not even out.
No.
There's a lot. Well, you know what? We'll put out another video then. Let's do it. We'll do it. Like, maybe we'll do it on the Lionsgate because I really wanted to talk about the Lionsgate.
Oh, yeah.
And,
So when do we need to do that?
well, that's August 8th. So we
Oh,
should probably do it. We should
do
do it before. I mean, I got a whole bunch of stuff I want to talk about with it. But I'm kind of losing my the channel's starting to close.
Yeah.
And Black Moon Lilith is,
Like,
she's fanning me with her wings.
I'm also like, I'm real hot, guys. I'm real hot. I
Oh,
can't.
I'm hot as balls over here.
Your AC is too loud, and I'm just like, oh, everything's moist.
Well, you know what? Do you know what? Venus is on fire. You can't. Venus is so hot. I was
It's
like,
so
okay, this
hot.
the symbol. People are like, oh, Venus is on fire. This is a hot
So
planet. We
hot
can never
right now,
survive on there.
y'all. Yeah,
I
she's
know. And Venus being in Leo retrograde. That's hot.
yeah. There's
It's hot.
fires and it's just like you guys, it's crazy out there.
One thing that's if we're not, it's not going to be a boring summer. That's for sure. That is for sure. Oh yeah, and Putin. we talked about this before, but I wanted to slip this in.
Slip it in.
Putin,
Slip it in.
slip it in. Putin's little black moon Lilith.
Autocracy here.
Yes. So Putin's Pluto is at 20 degrees Leo. Conjunct his black moon Lilith is, guess what? 20 degrees Leo. Can we say that? Yes.
Yes.
So, and it conjuncts his 10th house. So right now,
No
Putin,
wonder he's such a like power hungry, like egomaniac.
he has a very, that black, he feels very shunned.
Yeah,
He
like
does.
there's some little whiny little boy in there that's like, I know, I'll just be an evil dictator and that will heal my inner child.
Plus, remember, he got indicted last year, the same time in April, that Trump did, by the international community. Not that anyone's going to arrest him, but he got indicted for war crimes against children, which I find that, wow, woo, that's pretty, on the nose for.
What is it? There was that big meeting that was it BRIC? It's the meeting that Russia is like, it's Brazil, Russia, India, China that has that international coalition, and they were like, he was supposed to go to some meet, but they were like, if you go here, we have to basically arrest you because you're an international war criminal. So he couldn't go because
and this is, and of course with his 10th house being Pluto conjunct Moon and Lilith, and Moon and Lilith is where we're shunned, and so yeah, and also because of the war crime is, again, because of it's war crimes against children, which is so Black Moon and Lilith, right? So and he's Black Moon Lilith,
and then it's also the 10th house, so it's his public image. It's just
and Pluto, right? Pluto is power, and his power. So his fate is going to be quite interesting to watch from here on. And another note: Zelensky has Saturn at 28 degrees Leo, so this is all conjuncting his Saturn, and that's a whole nother episode.
Whole thing, but
they're going to come up in the news you watch by the time. I think it's going to happen when Venus goes into Virgo at 0 degrees, because that's when it conjuncts Regulus, and we're going to see some stuff go down. Politically with world leaders. We're already seeing it this whole time. We talked about that before in the last video, but I'm doing a lot of blah, 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 blah.
We can do it again. Okay. All right. Well, let's hope this all records. Looks like
it says recording.
It says recording.
And how long has this been? We're like,
I don't know. It's been forever. It's going to be
okay. Well, we should probably sign out.
All right. So I guess we're signing off for now. We'll see you guys sometime.
Hopefully before Lionsgate. Remember, Lionsgate is August 8th. Actually, it starts July 28th to August 12th. And you can Google it. It's Google it. I won't tell you. You just Google it.
Check us. No, don't fact check.
Don't fact check us. Yeah, fact check me. I dare you.
Record something this weekend, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off camera. And well, thank you, Caroline.
That was great. Thank you. Thank you, Lilith. She's
you're beautiful and perfect, and you can top me anytime. You're the only one. Everyone else, get down.
Goodbye, Marnie. Goodbye, Caroline. Lady Karma, and all of you fabulous people out there, all 4 of you.
Now give us an evil laugh.